Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you two of the cornerstones of evil geniuses, the multi-talented, ever-chin-strappingly dashing gentlemen, Jeff In Control Robinson and Greg Idra Fields.
You guys have been great all weekend long. Thank you so much. We're going to be casting some WCS up here. And these guys have had a tough journey, actually, with TT1 and Ostojiy making it all the way here. I think Ostojiy's only dropped the series to Scarlet.
Yeah, those are actually the only two games he's dropped all the way through. It was a 1-2 series to Scarlet. Everyone else he's 2-0'd, despite the fact he was playing all day in like multiple matches. He was passing out for his last match for DD. Still managed to get the 2-0.
There's people laughing. I can't tell if it's at me or not. So that's like a nightmare for a lot of people, actually.
I didn't understand that.
He said he wanted me to power slam you.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know how you guys do it over here, but actually we don't power slam our friends back in the States. Power slam your anti-friends. Also, TT1, obviously a guy that I've, it's kind of funny. We exchange funny words with that guy, but I've seen you practice with him. You've definitely worked with him as EVP. What do you want to say about his PVZ?
His PVZ is really, really abusive in a good way. He knows the exact timings of everything early on. He always has an economic lead, and then he has really good builds to follow it up. And this tournament in particular, like he 2-0'd Huck, who a lot of people thought was the favorite going in. I don't think he's played any Zerg so far, and he's kind of struggled a bit versus Terran, but PVZ is definitely a matchup he's really comfortable in. Could be hard for Ostojiy to deal with. We'll see. But I believe ZVP is Ostoji's best, so it's going to be tough for TT1.
Really excited about this match. Both these players are great. They're both top NA players. We've seen them at the top of the ladder. Really awesome to have them here in the top 4 of the WCS Canada. There's been, WCS is across the board. I've watched the South American. We got the Eastern European coming up next weekend. It's had some sporadic results. I think Vibe winning the States was a shock for everyone, probably even Vibe. Actually, in his interview, he said that was a shock for him.
Yeah.
So to see these top 4, I think seeing perhaps Huck outside the top 4 is the big shock, but
Other
Scarlet,
than that, definitely makes sense. People have been talking about Scarlet a lot recently.
TT1, Scarlet, Ostojiy, those are some of the bigger names. Maybe Dodoro, actually, you could say, is a little bit of a surprise.
He's been around for a long, long time, though, and he's always been performing pretty well. Just never really had the chance to shine. And this is, like we've talked about before, WCS is really a great place for a lot of players like that because you get exposure that you normally don't for a lot of these players who are very skilled, but people don't see them enough.
I think you're right. Okay, let's do some player introductions. The map is Ohana. This is the first game. Top left-hand side from Team Root, it is TT1. And his opponent in the lower left-hand side, the red Zerg from Team It's goes to Ostojiy.
And we see them up in the boost there, and that's another big aspect of WCS. Like we said, these are players who are really good, but a lot of the time they don't get as much exposure as some of the bigger names, and with that comes a lack of stage experience. Ostojiy in particular is a player who's known for being great online, but he has a lot of nerves offline. Maybe he's overcoming that this weekend, or maybe just outplaying everyone anyway. But a lot of these players, they don't have the offline experience you're used to seeing from the other players up on the stage, from the NASL players.
You know what, I would say definitely in this top 4, 3 out of the 4 would qualify for that. TT1, however, I would say is outside that realm just because he's actually traveled to Korea, and despite being sick in that international tournament, he did quite well, defeating some really big-name players in one of the biggest stages in all the world, if not the biggest stage of the GSL for StarCraft 2. But certainly he's a little bit more comfortable in that booth. I would say this, of the 2 of these guys, he's the bigger name. People are expecting him to win more. So that does add some pressure for some people. It kind of makes it a little bit more complicated.
Yep. TT1 definitely the bigger name going to this. In fact, he was the first replacement for NASL. He was the 9th seed going into these finals here. He just barely missed out on it. And he's been on quite a tear recently, actually. Getting to 9th place in NASL is a huge achievement. A lot of people kind of underrate that. They don't really realize how well he's been doing recently.
I think that's an interesting, to break away from WCS just for a moment here, I think that's an interesting, almost negative byproduct of having only a top 8 offline final, is that a lot of people kind of look past the fact that top 16 in a tournament this prestigious with this many good players is actually an amazing accomplishment in and of itself. So sometimes it gets, that bears reminding. But as it is, we go into Ohana here. We have a fast expansion from the Zerg. Pretty standard stuff. We're not over-talking an 8 pool or something. That'd be extremely awkward and very bad. TT1's a guy who will try to get his Nexus down before anything else.
Yep, and he did get to go Nexus first here. He scouted even a 14 pool from Ostojiy, but he knows exactly what's going on. He knows his timings. He knows he's going to be able to, even if Ostojiy sends Zerglings directly here, he's just going to drop down a pylon block, pull out some probes or something, and that'll buy enough time for the cannon, and he'll be fine. He does have this probe down here as well. He's immediately sending it out to try and block this third, but the timing's not quite right. That third will get up. It's kind of unfortunate for TT1, because these Zerglings are out here. They wouldn't be able to chase that off. Could have bought a lot of time. And here, the gateway block is up. That will keep those Zerglings out in time for this hatch, or for this cannon to finish. As soon as the cannon finishes, he'll cancel that, put up the cyber core. So everything going as TT1 wants. But same for Ostojiy. He does have this third base up. Everything very, very standard for both players so far.
Yeah, it's an interesting exchange here. You send the Lings across, and you run the risk of having that probe kind of, you know, like paint graffiti on your walls or something mischievous in the background. But it's just not going to happen because the Overlord's kind of keeping an eye on it, and now the Zerglings are circling around to go ahead and corral that probe into a more convenient spot. But yeah, the gateway does get canceled. You don't want to wall yourself in entirely, especially not with 2 gateways because it delays the cybernetics core. But as far as things are considered here, this is pretty steady and easy. I think that's pretty typical of a, I think this is a best of 3 if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it is.
And for your opening game, you definitely want to keep things pretty normal. I mean, people fall on different sides of that fence, I guess, but the point I'm trying to make is butterflies are flown. We talked about how the stage is difficult for both these players to play on. They are top 4, but there's a gigantic disparity in prize earnings. First place is $6,000. Fourth place is like $37 in a ticket fare or like a bus pass or something like that, maybe a hot dog. A huge, huge difference, and you really do want your eye on that prize. You want to face Scarlet in that final.
Yeah, it's a situation where you're really uncomfortable taking
Scarlet.
risks. Possibly Scarlet, yes. Scarlet or Dodoro.
Right.
We have a really fast second gateway coming down from TT1. He does this build quite a bit. It's going to be a 3 or 4 stalker poke. If he finds a hole, he'll continue to add stalkers and keep poking. Otherwise, it's just light little aggression. This kind of thing's gotten really popular recently as Protoss just finally realized that Zerglings can't actually kill a stalker until they have speed, and no Zerg goes fast speed anymore. So it's just a really smart, risk-free way to harass the Zerg early on. And something you'll notice is Ostojiy went quick, not too quick one gas, so his speedling isn't going to be very fast, and he didn't get that second gas immediately. So everything tech-wise is going to be kind of delayed for him. He's going to have a lot of drones, but with 3 or 4 stalkers picking at you, that's not really a situation you want to be in.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice he made because this is like a, I don't know, a 30-second, 25-second faster metabolic upgrade, but it's just, it's not much. A little bit strange in that sense. I think the Stalkers are still going to have their day in the middle field, at least picking off whatever should be watching on the towers. We see that first Stalker walking out being escorted by a probe. And of course, this is one of the greater threats that we talk a lot about in the PvZ matchup is how much does this probe get to do? If it's able to walk out and drop a pylon or 2, that can sometimes instigate more of a reaction from the Protoss where they say, oh, okay, now I need to do a little bit more of a gateway timing or warp in a few stalkers, which should be safe because there's no metabolic upgrade. And that's exactly what we see here. And I tell you what, this is my pet peeve, man. That pylon right there.
The fact that the Zerg's not scouting?
It's like not bringing an umbrella to Seattle.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, every single Protoss does this. And these Zerglings, even here in position, not going up there and checking it. Warp gate has finished. He has 3 gateways up. This is a really weird timing from TT1. You do not go 3-gate warp pressure. But as we see, Ostojiy doesn't have speed anytime. Oh, but his stalkers actually get trapped here. They could be killed by slow Zerglings.
Yeah, they're having a tough time getting around. The creep's actually helping out there. 4 Zealots do come in here, and the Queen's got to be careful. She's not walking away. She does go down. And again, the Stalkers are the kind of the main force menu here for the Zerglings. They do get all 3 of the Stalkers. It's a bit of a tragedy. With the Queen going down, this could be salvaged by TT1.
Speedling has now finished, and actually 8 roaches coming out, and Ostoji's really overreacting to this. We see an Immortal coming up behind it. TT1's not dedicating anything at all to this, and he got a Queen, and he forced 8 roaches and a bunch of Speedling, plus the fast Speedling upgrade. Lair is now finished, but that's quite a bit delayed. Roach speed just starting now.
Yep.
So that definitely paid off for TT1, even though he lost those units for seemingly relatively little.
You know, I agree with you. I think if the 3 Stalkers get away, then it's certainly a big issue. But with the 3 Stalkers dying, one of the things you talk about in the PvZ matchup is how is gas spent. And for Protoss, it's extremely crucial. You want a lot of that gas to go to sentries and mortals, or even sometimes you'll sneak out a DT attack like we've seen all weekend long. But if you start losing things like Stalkers and sentries, you can't really build on that gas.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to respend it on Stalkers, otherwise you just have no DPS against the roach-based part of the army, except for your Immortals, which isn't enough by themselves. We also see the 4th hatchery coming down from Ostojiy and adding up to, I believe, that's 7 gateways total for TT1, so it's starting to look like an Immortal all-in. 7 gateways plus Immortals, quite a bit to take a 3rd after that.
Is +1 range attack a good indicator that he's looking to be the aggressor? Is this that 3-base roach style?
It's good for both holding off the all-in and for holding and for applying pressure. Stefano almost always goes for +1 range attack when he wants to pressure. The only thing it means is you're not going to just try and macro up and go ring infestor.
I almost want to say with this 5th gas coming up, it's starting to look more like he's looking to do kind of roach infester, which I've seen Ostojiy do a lot.
Yeah.
A couple of Lings make their way into the main mineral line. They do get a probe for their efforts, but that should be just about it. And now they're going to get a Perusal. Got to be careful with these roaches, though. I think that's one of the ways you can separate a player like Inertio from the rest of the pack. He doesn't let this happen, and 4 roaches do go down.
Yeah, 4 roaches for free there, and he hasn't gotten anything from those rogue poaches besides scouting information. And you know, you can't afford to trade 4 roaches for that when you're against something as powerful as the Immortal, and that's just, it's such a fragile situation for Zerg to try and deal with that. He does have good creep spread here, which helps quite a bit. He's getting the macro hatchery is already finished, and he's actually getting tunneling claws for roaches. But he has access to Observer tech. He has an Observer out already, in fact. So that's not really going to be the biggest benefit for him.
And this is a little bit different of a Immortal push. A lot of those Immortal pushes happen around the 10-minute mark, but this is a +2 attack Immortal push. And we have a counterattack from the Zerg.
A big counterattack.
Show up. There's no cannon, and he's not choosing to go through the open door, but instead wants to bash this door. And a single sentry's warped in, but he feels extremely awkward. It is a key. Check the genitalia. Now that Protoss Army is going to make its way into the natural here, and look at this, the Zerg's just giving up on it. Yeah,
but at the same time, TT1 has realized that he's not going to hold that natural, instead just warping his sentries and force fielding the ramp. I really like that decision. If he can hold on to the main and just essentially eliminate everything else and get to 1 base versus 1 base, then that's an advantage for TT1. But the army gets into the main.
Yeah, that's, I mean, he just ran out of warp-ins, I guess. He's warped in a bunch of stuff. Oh, he lost. No, there's the Cybernetics Force. There goes all my analysis. Damn it.
Yeah, I think that was just either a mistake or he didn't have a warp in time. But he's warping in Zealots, and he has gas, so I don't really understand that. I think it was just a mistake by TT1.
I mean, Ostojiy, I'd be very hard-pressed to see him lose from here. He's got Spine Crawlers on the high ground. He actually has Tunneling Claws, and I believe there's only 1 Observer out, which means he's going to be overtaxed for work. And as we can see here, TT1 is getting sacked in the main. His natural's gone. And this army that's coming in to clean this up should clean it up, but will it save the Nexus? I don't think so. It's going to go down right now, and that's it. That's GG.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of, I don't know, that was kind of underwhelming. TT1 just was not ready at all for the counterattack.
I mean, this is something that people have been talking about for a long time. We've heard about the Immortal push. It's one of those builds that was really popular, then it was still popular, and it's still popular. And a lot of Zergs are, I mean, we've actually seen Rhett tweet. I mean, it was one of the things he complained the most about. He was like, the Immortal push makes me a sad panda, and we're like, oh, okay. But then Zergs are kind of finding out you just counterattack, or if you're going to fight the Immortal push, it's all about multiple angles. You can't come in from one direction. Those force fields will get you. And that's why we saw, like, even last night with Alicia on Belshire Beach, Winter Edition, if you can get in those positions where you can close off an angle with just 3 or 4 force fields, it's still a super powerful push. But in this case, screw force fields. I'm just going to go for your base that has a single pylon defending it. This
was also a really weird variation of the build. Like you said, it came with +2 at 12 minutes, but it also still only had 2 Immortals in the Warp Prism.
Yeah.
2 Immortals in the Warp Prism is supposed to come at 9 minutes, and the extra +1 upgrade is not worth that 3-minute delay. We saw he just had so many units, plus he already had Roach Speed, which made the counterattack much faster. I don't know what happened to TT1's build, but it was not efficient at all. I guess that warp in early on slowed him down a lot more than we really thought it did.
And I do want to draw attention to one more thing, too, because I think this is really cool, and it's almost a modern reaction to that Immortal push. You can do the counterattack, you can do the multi-angles. That's stuff people have known about. The thing that Zergs are starting to do, which is really cool, is, okay, you're in my natural, screw it, you can have my natural. Then they pull up to their main base, they build 5 or 6 Spine Crawlers, and they just make it all about that ramp. They'll pull their drones, they'll have 10 roaches defend it. But if you can't get up that ramp, because force fields become just less of a factor that way, and your sentries are so light in the pants, you're not gonna win. You're gonna lose all your sentries. You're not gonna push up into the main. And as long as they're mining from somewhere else on some level, they're gonna hold it off and win that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Although the thing is, if Protoss just goes for the 3rd base while force fielding their own ramp, kind of like the reverse of the situation, just sacks their natural and holds the main. As long as they can rebuild the Cybercore in time to keep sentries up, then you end up possibly on 1 base versus 1 base, and you get a weird little situation there. But yeah, at least that gives Zerg a chance instead of just forfeiting everything and going for the base race.
Yeah. Okay, well guys, we're going to go into game number 2 on Entombed Valley in just a moment, but first, a quick commercial break.